Madame Castle.
Mr. Poirot, Colonel Weston has informed me that I am to give you my full cooperation. He suggested that I allow you access to whatever you need in the hotel, no matter how private.
I hope that does not distress you unduly, madame.
Well, my duty to the owners, but I have little choice. Here is the master key. This will unlock any door in the hotel.
Merci, madame. Can you account for your movements between 11:15 and 12 this morning?
Well, from 10 o'clock till 11:15, I was seeing to it the staff were all performing their duties. Then that the dining room was cleared and made ready for luncheon. That was until noon. It was a very ordinary morning, and until...
Quite so. Did you notice any of the guests behaving unusually?
Let me think. Mr. Redfern seemed agitated, underfoot, asking if anyone had seen Mrs. Marshall.
What time was this?
Between 10 and 10:30, I would say.
Tell me about the sandwiches and flasks of coffee prepared for the guests this morning.
Mr. Lane asked for sandwiches and coffee. He was planning on hiking, I believe. Mrs. Marshall asked for coffee only. Those were the only requests this morning.
How early are they put out on the table in the dining room?
Directly after breakfast. No later than 9:30. I wonder if you would excuse me. This has quite unsettled me, I'm afraid.
Of course, madame.
She's rattled by more than the murder.
You are correct, Hastings. The idea that I would have access to anything here in the hotel obviously includes the contents of her safe.
Think she'll do a bunk?
If she makes the... what was it you said?
Think she'll try to sneak away?
Oh, yes indeed. It is good that Colonel Weston is prepared to have her followed. Mademoiselle?
Mr. Poirot, you gave me such a start. I'm all nerves.
Is all well, mademoiselle?
What were you doing in your bath yesterday? It was such a mess. It took forever to clean it up.
It is a little hard to explain that...
Well, never you mind. I took care of it. It's my job.
How are things between you and Monsieur Will Jenks?
Mr. Poirot, the Marshall girl told me that there is nothing between her and my will. Everything's patched up.
I am so glad.
She also told me that you had a hand in clearing up that mystery. If you need a helping hand in this horrible murder case, you just let me know.
This room belongs to the beautiful Arlena Stewart, Marshall. This looks important. I will keep it in my notebook. I'll just put this in my notebook.
Believe me when I tell you, Hastings, there was nothing of interest in those drawers.
I say, old man, are we looking for anything in particular in here?
We are indeed, Hastings. We look for that which is not here.
Oh, that's a big help.
Alena Marshall's most delightful and expensive perfume. It is the same as that which we found in the cave.
Looks like ordinary bath salts. Poirot, open the lid.
I cannot, Hastings. The lid, it is screwed on most tightly.
There are red hairs caught in the bristles. No mistaking that colour.
Forgive the intrusion, Captain Marshall. My condolences. Forgive me, but I must impose upon you.
Carry on.
Poirot, I just saw a shadow by the balcony door. I think someone is out there listening.
Ah, well, we will let them listen, I think. Mrs. Marshall was your second wife?
Yes,
You have been married how long?
just over 2 years.
The marriage? It was a happy one?
Certainly.
Have you any idea who might have killed your wife?
None whatever.
Had she any enemies?
Possibly.
I say.
Oh?
Don't misunderstand me. Arlena was an actress. She was also a good-looking woman. She aroused a certain amount of jealousy, envy, hatred, malice.
From men as well as women?
Mostly women.
Was Mrs. Marshall previously acquainted with anyone in this hotel?
I believe she had met Mr. Redfern before, at some cocktail party.
How did you spend your time this morning?
I breakfasted downstairs at 10 minutes after 9 o'clock. After that, I went down to the bathing beach where I saw you. I had a quick bathe. Let me see. At about 20 minutes to 11, I returned here to type some letters. I typed until 10 minutes to 12. I then changed into tennis kit as I had a date to play tennis at 12.
Who else played the tennis?
Mrs. Redfern, Miss Darnley, and Mr. Gardner. I went down at 12 o'clock. Miss Darnley was there. Mr. Gardner and Mrs. Redfern arrived a few minutes later. We played for about an hour. Just as we came into the hotel afterwards, I got the news.
When was the last time you saw your wife?
9 o'clock. She was in her room opening her letters.
What was her manner? Unusual at all?
No, perfectly normal.
Did she mention at all what were the contents of the letters?
No.
You did not, pardon me, object to your wife's friendship with Monsieur Redfern?
I wasn't in the habit of criticizing my wife's conduct.
You did not protest or object in any way?
Certainly not.
Packet of lies. We overheard them arguing.
You will not deny then that Monsieur Redfern admired your wife?
He probably did. Most men did. She was a very beautiful woman.
You were persuaded there was nothing personal in the affair?
I never thought about it.
Utter rot.
Did your wife leave a will?
You know, I'm not sure.
Her solicitors?
Barkett and Applegood, Bedford Square. They handled all of her business affairs.
Was she well off?
Well, yes, her career was very successful, as I've told you. I would expect she was worth in the neighborhood of £50,000.
Then you would call your wife a rich woman?
I'll say.
I suppose she was, really. See here, Poirot. Aren't you getting a good way from the essentials of this business? What I believe or don't believe is surely not relevant to the plain fact of murder.
You do not comprehend, Captain Marshall. There is no such thing as the plain fact of murder. Murder springs 9 times out of 10 out of the character and circumstances of the murdered person. Because the victim was the kind of person he or she was, therefore, was he or she murdered. Until we can comprehend fully and completely exactly what kind of person Arlena Marshall was, we shall not be able to see clearly exactly the kind of person who murdered her.
Was there anything else?
Not at present, thank you.
Feel free to nose around all you like. I need some air.
That's a rather nasty-looking stick pin. I'd certainly like to see what Miss Marshall has stashed in there.
Then the combination to the box, it must be found. Trial and error will not open it.
More green fabric. From the ashes, it looks like quite a bit was burned here. Linda's watch. It agrees with yours exactly, Poirot.
Therefore the watch, it is correct to the second. May I put to you some questions, mademoiselle?
Of course, I'll do anything I can to help.
Could you please tell me of your movements this morning?
I had breakfast shortly after 9, say 10 past. Then I collected my book, spoke with you in the lobby briefly, and went to read at the Ledgers. That must have been about 25 past 10. I came back to the hotel about 10 minutes to 12, got my tennis racket and played until about 1.
From about 10:30 until 20 minutes of 12, you were at the Ledges and never left there during that time?
Not entirely. At about 11, I went back to my room to fetch my sun hat. I saw Kenneth Marshall typing in his room.
Indeed? From the hall, perhaps? Or the balcony?
The hall. His door was slightly ajar.
Did you see Madame Marshall this morning?
No.
You did not see her as she paddled her float round to Cutter's Cove?
No, she must have gone before I got there.
Did you see anyone at all on a float or in a boat?
At the Ledgers? Possibly Mr. Blatt. At least I think it was his boat. It had a white sail, though.
You didn't see Monsieur Redfern and Mademoiselle Brewster when they rode past?
No, I don't think I did. You see, I was reading, only glancing up occasionally.
Did anyone pass you on the path?
I was on the lower ledge. Unless someone had called out to me, I doubt I would have noticed them.
You were, I think, acquainted with Captain Marshall?
He is an old family friend. We grew up next door to one another, although I had not seen him for a good many years. It must be nearly 12.
Were the Marshalls on good terms with one another?
On perfectly good terms, I should say.
Monsieur Marshall, he was very devoted to his wife?
Ken, Mr. Marshall, is rather old-fashioned. He hasn't got the modern habit of shouting matrimonial woes upon the housetop.
Did you like Madame Marshall?
No.
Why was that?
She was bored to death with women and showed it. On the other hand, men were a very different story.
Do you think her husband was aware of her interests in that line?
I think that he accepted his wife quite frankly for what she was. He had no illusions about her, but I could be wrong.
Do you know of anyone with a grudge against Madame Marshall?
Only wives, but since she was strangled, I presume that it was a man who killed her.
Mademoiselle, may I ask a favor of you?
You found my typewriter, Monsieur Poirot. I am in your debt.
What would you have me ask, Hastings? Could you compare some pieces of fabric for me?
I would be happy to. Fabric is something I know quite a bit about.
Merci. The perfect favor to ask. You are learning to exercise their little gray cells with great skill. It would seem the obvious request.
This cut piece is fine silk. From a lady's hat, I would say. The torn bit is rayon, inexpertly dyed. And this burnt piece is from the same rayon as the torn fabric.
Many thanks, mademoiselle. I thank you for your cooperation.
A rather touching photograph. Mrs. Redfern's sketching supplies.
You were right, Monsieur Poirot, weren't you?
Madame?
You asked me to have patience, and now Arlena has been removed from the picture.
Perhaps. But the manner of her removal is not something to celebrate, I think.
Oh, I'm not celebrating, I'm not that callous. But I do know that eventually that door will open, and it will be my husband standing there.
If you could give me an account of your movements this morning?
Of course. Let me see. On my way down to breakfast, I stopped in to see Linda Marshall and fixed up with her to go to Sanctuary Cove. That was about 9:40. After breakfast, I saw you in the lobby. I sketched that man for you at about 10:20.
Again, my thanks.
Then Linda and I set out for Sanctuary Cove.
What time was that?
Think it was just on 10:30.
What did you do at Sanctuary Cove?
I made some sketches of the birds, while Linda swam and sunbathed. Have you seen them walk, Monsieur Poirot? It quite reminded me.
Ha!
We will not dwell upon the birds, madame, if you don't mind.
As you wish.
What time did you leave?
At 11:45. I was playing tennis at 12 with Miss Darnley, Mr. Marshall and Mr. Gardner.
How did you know the time?
Linda had a watch. I asked her.
I see. And then?
I packed up my sketching things and went back to the hotel.
What was Mademoiselle Linda doing when you left the beach?
Oh, Linda went into the sea again.
Did Linda Marshall actually enter the sea before you left the beach?
Yes. Oh, yes, she ran down the beach. I heard her splashing in the waves as I climbed the path.
What happened after you went back to the hotel?
I changed into my tennis things and went to the tennis court where I met the others. We played 2 sets and were just going in when the news came about Mrs. Marshall.
How did you feel when you learned of Madame Marshall?
It was a horrible thing to happen.
Yes, but you were so very surprised?
I think I see what you mean. No, I was not perhaps surprised. Shocked, yes. But she was the kind of woman.
She was the kind of woman to whom such a thing might happen. Yes, madame. That is the truest and most significant thing that has been said to Poirot today.
This may be important. I'll keep it in my notebook. Interesting. I'll put it in my notebook. This document bears further study. I will keep it in my notebook. This room belongs to Mr. Blatt.
Well, would you look at that?
I say, what caused that oily spot?
My nose tells me it is some kind of oil. A test would determine it more precisely. That is not such a good... That will do quite well.
Don't think me rude, sir.
If I remember correctly, this must be Stephen Lane's room.
My dear Hastings, we have no need of it.
Afternoon, Mr. Poirot. Terrible thing, this murder. I hope you get to the bottom of it. Need a little stimulation to help you think? Choose from the menu if you like.
I say, some tasty concoctions here, Poirot.
Do not disturb him, Hastings. We may be able to take advantage of his absence from the beach.
Hello, Monsieur Poirot. I'm sorry. I know I should have stayed at the hotel, but I had to get away.
It is of no matter, mademoiselle. I knew I should find you here. May I ask the questions?
Yes.
Can you tell me how you spent the morning?
After breakfast, I came here to Sanctuary Cove with Christine, Mrs. Redfern.
When was that?
We started off from my room just before the half hour, 10:25.
What did you do when you got here?
I swam, then sunbathed, while Christine sketched the gully moors. Then later I went back in for a bathe, and Christine went back to the hotel to get changed for tennis.
Did you like your stepmother, mademoiselle?
Oh, yes. Arlena was kind to me.
Did your father and your stepmother ever quarrel?
Oh, no. Father doesn't quarrel with people. He's not like that at all.
Have you any idea who might have wanted to kill your stepmother?
Well, I hate to say it, but Mrs. Redfern might want to. Her husband was in love with Arlena after all. Not that I think she would really want to kill her. I mean, she'd just feel that she wished she was dead. Monsieur Poirot, that isn't the same thing at all, is it?
No, it is not at all the same. What time was it that Mrs. Redfern left you?
12:45.
Are you sure of that time?
Oh, yes. She asked me. She didn't want to miss her tennis game. I looked at my watch. It was 11:45. It keeps very good time. I know I can't show you now. I left it in my room when I changed after bathing.
When did you return to the hotel?
Just about 1 o'clock. And then I heard about Arlena.
You filled a prescription for your stepmother today?
What? Oh, yes. Yes, I did. Just a while ago. Trinol.
And where is the Trianol now?
I put it in her room. There are evil people in the world. They need to be punished. But Mrs. Redfern isn't evil. I don't want her to get into trouble. She loves her husband, that's all. Don't you think?
I think she loves him very much. Oui, mademoiselle.
Look here, Poirot. There are quite a few more things we should be asking her. She clearly wasn't telling the truth about her feelings for Arlena, or about her father and Arlena never fighting.
Hastings, that is a very troubled child. I think it would be very unwise to press her. Besides, there is still more we need to discover about the events at Miss Potter's school for the young ladies.
Afternoon, Mr. Poirot. Terrible thing, this murder. I hope you get to the bottom of it. Need a little stimulation to help you think? Choose from the menu if you like.
I say, some tasty concoctions here, Poirot.
Sorry, sir. All out of dark rum and grenadine, I'm afraid. Blame George. It's his favourite drink.
Allow me the contribution.
Cough syrup? I can't serve cough syrup to my customers.
I say, some tasty concoctions here, Poirot.
What have we here, Hastings? I confess that your logic, it escapes me.
Afternoon, Mr. Poirot.
I say, some tasty concoctions here, Poirot.
Sorry, sir. All out of dark rum and grenadine, I'm afraid. Blame George. It's his favourite drink.
Allow me the contribution.
These will do nicely, sir. I can make several planters' punches with these. Thank you. There you go.
Merci. I must speak with you.
Sir, Colonel Weston says I should answer any questions you might have. Murder. Isn't it horrible?
It is indeed. What can you tell me about the murder?
Nothing. Nothing at all. I had to go rake that tennis court again this morning. I was there from 10:30 until several of the guests turned up to play around 12. Can you believe somebody had been digging it up?
Oh, that is terrible. I am sorry you were put to so much trouble.
Oh, that's all right. It's not as if you did it.
This is a washout. He knows nothing.
He can still be useful, Hastings. See if you can find out how. Do you know anything of fifth columnists operating along this coast?
Fifth columnists? You mean spies? Traitors? No.
No? But then he would not be likely to. Try again, Hastings. I saw Tom Cutter's ghost last night.
You did? Now folk will believe me. They thought it was just the liquid carriage making me see things.
How is this useful, may I ask? You told me you will be the Navy frogman soon.
Yes, sir. I hope this murder doesn't hold things up.
You can swim deep as well as fast?
I should hope so.
Mademoiselle Brewster tells me something was thrown into the rocky bath. Do you think you could swim down and find it?
I suppose I could under ordinary circumstances, but this murder has right unmanned me. If I had something that would brace me up, that might do it. Liquid carriage, if you catch my meaning.
Hastings, Hastings, Hastings? Have you learned nothing from Poirot? At least now we know the service George can perform for us. We lack only the means to enlist his aid. Oh, merci, Monsieur George. I will speak with you again.
You know where to find me, sir.
Hastings, those are expensive. Talk to George first before giving him the drink.
A planter's punch. This will do nicely. Thank you, sir. That certainly restored my nerves wonderfully. Now then, you had a bit of diving you wanted me to do. No luck yet, sir, but I'll have another go. This it, sir. Just a small glass bottle.
tractor, do you?
Yes, please?
On me way.
What a lot of police going back and forth. I guess it's true then. Murder's been done. I heard it was that actress lady, Arlena Stewart, who died. Good to have that Colonel Weston in charge. He'll soon get to the bottom of things. And I brought over Dr. Neasden as well. He does the autopsies at the hospital in Kingsbridge. Hard to believe that such a thing could happen here. I don't think there's been a death on the island since Tom Cutter was hung 3 centuries ago. Hello again, Mr. Poirot. How can I help you?
I have a few matters to discuss only. What can you tell me of hotel guest movements this morning?
Well, let's see. Mr. Lane came across on the sea tractor fairly early this morning, about 8, I'd say, and set off on foot across the moor. He hasn't come back yet. Major Barry picked up his car, thanks again for repairing it, and drove off to Kingsbridge just before 10. Say, 10 minutes of... Major Black came in from sailing not too long ago and headed for the Monk's Head. I've seen no one else except the police and Dr. Neasden coming and going. Colonel Weston went back to the police station, I think.
Do you know Mr. North?
The day tripper gent with the binoculars?
That is he.
Haven't seen him today at all, but he has no trouble wading across the causeway on his own.
He has been visiting Seadrift Island often?
Every now and again over the past few months. Anything else I can help you with, Mr. Poirot? You did a bang-up job on that motor of Major Barry's.
Do you have the handle of the winch used for the raising and lowering of the sails?
No, but I can probably track one down for you. Come back later this afternoon.
What can I do for you, Mr. Poirot?
You have heard of the terrible tragedy?
The murder of that wonderful actress, Mrs. Marshall? Oh, yes.
I have been asked to investigate.
Well, I'm sure you'll clear it up as fast as you found my missing post.
Merci, madame. Did you see any of the hotel guests this morning?
Yes. Major Barry came in around 9:30. He wanted to use the phone. Then he declared it wasn't private enough for his needs and said he'd drive into Kingsbridge instead. What do you suppose was so private he couldn't call from here? It's not as if I'm one to gossip.
Of course not. Did you see anyone else?
Yes. That young stepdaughter of Mrs. Marshall's came in to refill a prescription for her.
What was the prescription?
A sedative. Trianol.
When was Mademoiselle Marshall here?
Why, it was only a little while ago. Right before I heard the news of the murder.
Hold on. Arlena was well dead by that time.
Indeed, she had no more need of the sedatives. Thank you, Madame Hughes. That is all my questions. I am sorry, mon ami, but I do not think we... The substance in Monsieur Black's suitcase is the oil for the protecting of a gun from rust, Hastings. The substance contained in the smashed bottle found in Cutter's Cove? It is perfume? The bottle thrown from the balcony? It contained artificial suntan. The blood found at the monastery ruins? It is from the chicken. The substance on the stick pin, it is candle wax. Ah, almost there. Does nothing strike? That is, does nothing... The substance in Elena's coffee? It is trianal, a powerful sedative.
Like a ride to the island?
Yes, please.
Let's be off. I have a theory about the murder. What if it wasn't murder at all? Suicide. I know what you're thinking. I know it's difficult to commit suicide by self-strangulation. But what if Miss Stewart was choking on something like a chunk of apple or something? contractor, do you?
Yes, please.
On me way. Gladys and I have seen several of Miss Stewart's films. It's a tragedy she can't make any more now. You know, it got me thinking. Film stars are immortal. Years and years after they die, they are still up on the screen, entertaining us and taking our minds off our troubles. Did you ever think of that? Film stars never die.
Hastings, this is important. Would you not agree?
Thank you, sir. I'll send it off directly. Thank you, sir. I'll send it off at once.
Have you any dark rum?
Nary a drop, I'm afraid. With trade being as slow as it is, there's not much sense in restocking.
Hello, Poirot. Seems like the old place isn't so dull anymore.
No, it is not. Proceed with care, Hastings. We have need of Monsieur Blatt's assistance.
Righto.
Where were you from 11:15 and 20 of 12 this morning?
Easy. I put out in my yawl about 9, then spent the morning zipping up and down the bay. Just got back a few minutes after 1 and heard the news about the murder. Ghastly business.
Could you see Cutter's Cove from your boat?
Well, yes. I suppose I could have, but I wasn't looking, I'm afraid.
Can you shed any light on the murder?
If I was looking for a suspect, I couldn't rule out that Mrs. Redfern. Jealousy, you know, led to trouble before this.
Yes, unfortunately, Madame Marshall was strangled by someone with powerful hands. That does not suggest Madame Redfern. Hastings, do you therefore rule out all women as suspects?
Of course. No woman would have the strength.
We will speak more of this in a moment. I believe you have lost a life ring buoy from your sailboat?
How did you know that?
I have found it. Your boat is called the Parsimony, is it not?
Why, yes, she is. A little joke of my competitors in the business world.
Hardware, was it? Do not press him, Hastings.
That's right. Listen, that boy's no good to me anymore. It was damaged in a storm. I've been trying to find another without much success. I even tried to beat Bagby at darts for the boy and his war, but I couldn't do it.
Perhaps I will try a game of the darts.
Good luck. He's the best player I've ever seen.
Fancy a game, sir? Care to make a gentleman's wager?
I will play you for that life ring buoy on your wall.
Oh, very well. But it's worth 10 quid. Is it a bet?
£10 for a boy? That's highway robbery.
Only if he wins, Hastings.
10 quid against the boy. You throw first.
I didn't think you had it in you. Well done.